Okay, so it's lesson 8, and we've set up our Google authentication, which I neglected to record, so I will quickly run through the steps again for us. The first thing we had to do that you should not have to do in your assignment is I had to go and modify my ASPNET user logins table. So the script I had originally put on Blackboard had the first 3 columns, provider, provider key, and user ID. It didn't have this provider display name field, so I've created that, and I've just made it a 255 character varchar that allows nulls. I've updated the script on Blackboard for you to run in your assignment database, so you should not have to manually do this. I've put this field is in the script that's now here, but it was missing from the version we ran when we first created our database for a class. So that was step 1. Step 2 was going to set up the Google sign-in for websites. So again, if you just search for Google sign-in, it takes you right here, the first link on Google. So for your assignment, you can just search Google sign-in for websites. It'll take you here. So developers.google.com. This is the JavaScript version. So you'll need to configure a new project, and you'll give it the name of whatever you called your assignment. And then you're going to choose web server rather than web browser, and you'll put in the redirect URI. So that'll be your localhost /signin -Google. And then I copied the keys, so that took us into the library. And if you miss, so it gives us the keys right when we finish creating the project, but we can always get the client ID and secret here. So if we just go into the developer console, pick our project under credentials, here's the client ID, which you can copy. And if you need the secret at any time or you need to reset it, you just go in and edit it, and your client secret is right underneath. So those are the 2 values we'll generate in the Google console. Sorry, it was our OAuth client, the second one down here. So there's our ID, there's our secret, and here was our local redirect URI. So it's my local host and then the port that Visual Studio automatically assigned /signin -Google. So there was our setup in the Google portal. Then within my project, in app settings.json, I added this section. So I've added from the comma, everything in blue. So we've created a Google section, and then we've created a little JSON object that has 2 keys and 2 values, client ID and client secret, and I copied and pasted those 2 API key values from the console. The last thing we did was we went into our startup file and we added this section. So we set up 2 variables to read the client ID and client secret from our app settings.json. And then we called the add authentication method where we enabled Google and we set the ID and secret. And then my Google login now works locally. Now I'm going to push this up to Azure, and we'll see what happens when I try to log in with Google when this site is live. What do you expect will happen? Do you think the login will work? Why will it not work? Right. We've set up the redirect path when it runs locally, but we've never told it when requests are coming from our domain on Azure, where to go back to. So I've pushed this. I'm going to log into the Azure portal quickly, set up a new website that's deployed for my Git repository. I've also changed the database connection, so I'm now using a live database rather than using the local database. So I'll recreate because I had deleted my Control-Alt-PC web application. So I'll just recreate and redeploy that quickly. So I'll create a new resource group. And I'll pick .NET Core 2. So I'll create it, then I'll connect it up. I've pushed my changes that I've already made this morning. I've pushed those to GitHub already. No, just let this run. Now, sometimes I've stored my keys in app settings.json. There is actually another place to store the keys. But we'll leave it, I'll leave it in there like that for now. So this is just going to take a couple minutes to run. And then I'll connect it up to my Git repository. So what we'll ultimately need to do here, because Joel is right that we've only got the local URL. Once my site is up and running, I'll also want to add the live URL again with /signin-Google. So for your assignment, in order for me to run it, I'll need to do the same.
You are recording, right?
Yep, I am recording. I sure hope so. Let's just check. Yes, I am recording. We're good. Okay, so now I'll go to my resource. And I'll go into my deployment center and connect it back up to my Git repository. So I'll pick GitHub as my source for continuous deployment. I'll pick the app build service. Okay, there's my repository. I only have one branch, so I'll deploy from the master branch. We'll give that a minute to run. It's probably going to show up blank at first. Yeah, well. Just wait till this is done. And then I'll try my Google login here. Okay. It says it deployed successfully. So now I'm going to try my Google login from Azure. So this is what we get. It says our redirect URI. So it's expecting it to be my Azure site /signin-Google, but it doesn't match any authorized URIs in the Google console. So what I need to do is take my live domain /signin-Google, and I'm going to need to add it here. So the way to do this is I go into credentials, and under my OAuth client, if I click edit, it's already got my local host. I'm going to add my live one. And now I get this message. So local, it didn't give me any problem. And let me put it in, but it's saying the domain must be added to the authorized domains list first. So I'm going to click on this authorized domains list. Here, we could actually put in a logo if you want our logo to show up on the Google login box. Okay, so here, authorized domains. So it has, for example, example.com. So we'll try AzureWebsites.net because my site is running on a subdomain. The primary domain is AzureWebsites.net. Must be a top private domain. What do they mean by a top private domain? Well, that's not very helpful. I'm going to try my full domain. Okay, so I had to put in my full subdomain without the HTTPS. So control-alt-pc.azurewebsites.net, and I hit enter. So now I'll try to save that. And then I will go back in here and try again to add my full URI. So starting with HTTPS, my domain /signin-Google. So now it will accept it. I've authorized my domain, and then I can hit save. So now this API can run either on localhost with that port, or it can also run from this domain. So my login should work now. So I will go back to my login page and try it again. So now the redirect URI error is gone. I can pick a Google account. And now I'm signed in with that Google account. So in your assignment, if you're able to publish it to Azure or GearHost or another server, you'll need to make sure that you set up both the local URL as well as the live one. in the Google portal. So this way I can use a Google login. And all of the other services, whether it's Facebook, Microsoft, they all ask you for the redirect URIs in the same way Google does, where you'd want to give both the local and then the live site. Okay, so there's our Google login. So those steps we've taken today, setting up the project in the console, generating the keys, adding the keys, and then enabling the Google code in startup. Those are all the steps you would need to do to enable Google authentication for assignment 2, part 1. Does anybody have questions? Anything you'd like me to go over? Was confusing, you're not sure about, didn't make sense? Please ask. We can talk about it. I think we will just leave this at Google. So if you want to integrate Facebook in your assignment, it will be for bonus marks. I won't show you how to do it. It's similar. There's one gotcha with Facebook. I will warn you. With Facebook, the way that their login works is when you set it up, when you create the API, it's in development mode by default. And when it's in development mode, it means only your Facebook account can use your API. So you can log in with it, but if I try and log in with it, I'll get an error saying it's in development mode. So in other words, if you do that, I won't be able to test it. And if I can't test it, you can't get bonus marks. So there's 2 things you have to do if you enable Facebook in your assignment. Number 1 is you have to take it from development mode, you have to turn it into production mode. And they warn you, you can't turn a Facebook API from development into production unless you put in the URL to a privacy policy. So there's actually a privacy link built into your Visual Studio project. So if you're going to do this, you're going to enable Facebook login, just go and click the privacy link in your assignment, copy that URL, and put that as the privacy policy URL. Once you enable a privacy policy URL, you can then toggle your API from development to production mode. That will allow anybody with a Facebook account to log in with their Facebook account. So if you want bonus marks for doing Facebook, you have to do the whole thing. If I can't log in with it, then I can't verify it actually fully works.
So after someone's registered this, you then have to go in there and make them an admin, or you have to assign a role to that user once.
If you, yes. So by default, they're not in any role.
Right. So you have to go in and change
Yeah.
the role.
In your assignment, you don't need to use roles at all. We're only dealing with authenticated users that can change things and anonymous users that can only read things. You do not need to have different levels of users for the assignment. So we're doing authentication, but not authorization with roles and permissions. That's not required. Okay. So we'll leave this here. I'm actually going to stop the video stream because the rest of our class today is going to be an in-class lab that you're going to do, I think, with one other person. Okay. So I'm going to stop the stream and I will explain what I want you to do for the lab. I don't need to push any more code to GitHub because my updated code is already on GitHub. The only thing I did since I started streaming was update the URL in the Google Developer Console.